match fixing debacle. It is something that, well, it paints quite a grim picture of where we are. When we thought we were at some certain level, but now it looks like we are further back than we thought. But again, the people have been mentioned there. I don't know. We start with Arocho.
Yep.
What do you think about the way it was done?
My response is, I look at it from two angles. One, I think time has come that us in the football fraternity should lobby our legislators to come up with the legislation. The reason why I'm saying so is that look at the first gentleman that is mentioned there, Willis Ochieng Ogeyo. Willis was suspended, was even kept off the game about 10, 20, 15 years ago in Finland. This gentleman was alleged to have, and in fact he went through the process, to have fixed some match and earned about 6 million from that match in Finland, when he was playing football in Finland. What did we do as a country? We welcomed him back, and for me, the problem, we encourage that problem. We have to have legislation. The other day, there was that Ugandan who was arrested. Mm-hmm. What happened? There is no law to prosecute match fixing in this country. As a fraternity, we must lobby our legislators to make sure that we have law. Because even if Arocho is arrested, how do you deal with Arocho? Other than perhaps stoning him. Legally, there is no framework that is going to support prosecution of guys who have been alleged to participated in match fixing. The only thing you can do is to suspend them or to kick them out of the game. Now, the other side is, I hope the federation have done some due process. Because the moment you mention me in such a statement, you have to make sure that you have tangible evidence and give me some hearing. Regardless of what you have against me, the rule of law dictates that you have to give me a hearing.
A right of reply.
You have to take me through some process, so that whatever happens, there is some due process. But once again, I'm pleading to our legislators. I'm pleading to Football Kenya. I'm pleading to the entire fraternity. Let us lobby our legislators to have a law that will prosecute these manners.
As I add on what Arocho is saying, in 2020, there were like 5 players who were banned because of their match fixing, and 1 was banned for life. And another, almost 5 or 4 referees were suspended. And if you check those people who were suspended, maybe in the referees, I think some of them maybe they are now doing working in the FKF, like that is they're still working actually. Right. So why are you telling me you're giving out names, and you're giving out names, and the last names that you gave out in 2020 nothing happened. So what are you going to do now? That is the question. What's the next phase of this? Right. Because you're giving us names. Yes, we have names now. In the end of after 5 or 2 years, we will see them back working with our footballers and everything. So what is the next phase of after this?
Shtera, what do you think about? Of course, match fixing in itself is a crime, but the legislation and what has been the situation back then. Looks like nothing is done.
I think there is a very big difference in terms of football management, because you see even cases that related to sports, they have a special tribunal to handle it. Right. Both in Kenya and at the world governing body FIFA, you have to go through that sports tribunal for your matters to be handled. And I think that is the direction that we really need to take. But in football, in most cases, the punishment is that suspension or you're banned. We are just coming from a FIFA suspension. When you commit a football crime, what you will get as a punishment is you are either fined
or
banned or suspended. And probably maybe it's a culture, as Arocho said, that might be looked into, but we will have to bring FIFA on board, because anything we do that is outside the FIFA statute, I think now will mess the whole thing.
Because this person...
But again, match fixing has been a problem.
Yeah.
It's not a new thing in Kenya. It has happened, as Zita has said, what happened to those fellas that were suspended. But with the regime change, you will see that most of these people are forgiven, and they come back to the same mess that they had orchestrated earlier.
But ideally, I think I think what we are saying is also, so what we are saying, if I can get all of you right, and before we go to Swila, ideally, mtu mwenye participate in match fixing, if there are credible laws, should not be now working at a certain NGO or a corporate, so because their credibility is already in question. But should be on their record permanently.
But
if they are found guilty.
Yes, as Arocho say, in football there is no process to judge you.
Right.
You are only punished through suspension, as it has happened.
Right.
And what I'm saying, there's no tangible record that will deny you a job somewhere else. You might have committed a football crime.
So ukienda pale kwa ile certificate of good conduct,
utapata because hujakuwa judged, you have never been sentenced. And so in Kenya, we are governed by the rule of law. And the rule of law have dictates.
Yeah.
And if football decides that this is our way of doing things, I don't think it affects how you should work as a professional. Probably you are an engineer, but you are a footballer. You have committed a football crime. You have been suspended from FKF by FKF. But in your other world, as an engineer, you can work.
Right.
Yeah. So that is what Arocho is saying. That let it be considered as a crime in law.
Right.
You can be taken through a judicial process and a verdict given on your crime that will be recorded. Yes, will be recorded nationally that wewe ulicommit a crime na umefungwa miaka 6, hufai kuhold a public office.
Right.
But that is not happening. I think that is where we have some deficiencies with FIFA. Because look at it this way. I'm insulated as a member of FIFA. I can commit crimes protected by FIFA. If there is intrusion by government, you suspend the whole country because of an individual. You see? So I think FIFA also needs to improve on their statutes that I think were generated many years back.
Yeah.
To incorporate their activities, of course, with what the constitution in member countries say.
Yeah. So I think Sule also talked about a new order of doing things. Is this some of the things that you think will help us out? Because now it looks like hakuna tujifiche wapi.
First of all, for me, this statement points to one thing, not on the federation, not as footballers, but we as a country. Yeah? And this is why I said it talks to the soul of humanity. And it sums who we are as a country. And this is what? Lack of ethos. As a country, we don't have ethos anymore.
Yes.
Everyone, look at parliament, look at our schools. We've permeated a culture of get rich quick. We glorify wealth. So
no matter how it's gotten.
The approach maybe somebody used to get that. We've seen it even in newspapers articles where we glorify how Arocho made billions at a tender age. But on the other way, if you do due diligence, you find out years back he was prosecuted. Yeah, I'm just giving you that example.
No problem.
Doesn't mean it's no problem. Yeah. So as a country, we lack ethos.
That's right.
That's why I'm saying, if we were in a country where systems work, where there's the respect for rule of law, there should have been anger outrightly, demanding for accountability, demanding for justice, demanding that we go to the bottom of this. That's not, it's business as usual.
It's just normal.
It's okay, there's much fixing, so what? You see? And we see it in all sectors in this country. Go to the medics, go to hospitals. We've had this misdiagnosis. We've had doctors refusing to treat patients because they can't pay 200,000.
Botched circumcisions.
All that.
And doctors are working scot-free.
We are so much okay. We see our politicians walk to our TV studios in political rallies, but this doesn't prick their conscience. That, to me, is a concern. As a country, we've let down our guard. We don't have any ethos. There's no humanity. And that's where the rain is beating us. Because this is not something new. The last 5 years we've seen it. We had the case at Kakamega Homeboys. We saw the case at Western Stima that Jobita said. What became of that investigation? So it has been there. No one has really cared to go deep and dig. And like what Arocho said, right now probably what CS Namwamba should have been discussing, because now match fixing is a cancer in football. Doping is a cancer in
athletics.
The last time he was forced to do lobbying so that we are not banned by World Athletics, and that's where we are heading. But if we don't address this, it's not you and me. These players who are playing their football right now, they can't take us anywhere. In as far as challenging for World Cup tickets or AFCON, they can't take us anywhere. That's the painful truth. But now we need to focus on those young boys, the 10, 12, 14, 15. So what kind of future are we going to give them as far as the beautiful game is concerned? If we can fix our matches, things go on as usual, then we bury our heads in the sand, assuming nothing is happening. That's where we've lost it as a nation. And no matter how hard they work, our football can't make strides when we have such cases in our league. No credible sponsor will come into a game with such kind of cases. It has been discussed, as you said, in harsh tones, but now the federation has come out and said, guys, this is happening. These gentlemen, we think they have a case to answer. But as Arocho said, we hope Barry Otieno and the federation are going to follow through this. We can see this gentleman given a right of reply. We want to see tangible proof. Probably they need to tell us some of this money.
How,
they feel,
when, yes, in the matches.
Compromised. How are this money exchanging hands? And President Eli Kalek of Spopaka did mention it some time back. So it has been happening. But it's a shame that the industry, the stakeholders, do not want to confront this.
By mentioning these names, how many are there? 15.
Yeah, 15.
And if they're involved in certain games, and I don't know what happens, because if those games say, well, I don't know, last season maybe,
probably,
and we already have a champion, and I don't know what the margins were last time, but on some close games, 1 or 2 games, if we have 15 people, and let's say, I don't know what the case is because they haven't told us, but what if there were 15 games?
Sadly, Arocho will tell you, Arocho will tell you, he sits in a committee that picked the so-called player of the season. And one of those beneficiaries is
one of that.
There.
So what does that tell you?
So that's what I'm saying. So will it affect outcomes?
No.
Don't misquote. So does that mean that if those games that were fixed, will it affect?
That's why I think that's why FKF pronounced itself that the league was null.
No. Guys, we are missing a point here.
Let's say,
you see, the names that are mentioned there is not necessarily what happened last season.
Okay.
It's not necessarily what happened.
This is a serial match fixer.
This is something that has been happening. I think they've been doing the investigation. Because if you look at the names, there are several names from the lower leagues. It's not only in the Premier League. You can see Selobwet, you can see Demonde Selenge, who is the head coach of Kericho FC. But coming back to my point, I think somehow we are missing it. FKF and FIFA, they cannot prosecute. They don't have that. Yes, and they don't have the instruments to prosecute. And that's why I'm talking about legislation. And the other point here is it's not just the games that, for example, when you are saying that it was in the Premier League, this thing is deeply rooted. I did some research on Willis. What happened in Finland?
A beautiful name.
What happened in Finland?
Crazy.
They don't just fix the match that is in question.
It's in question, yeah.
No. They fix even matches that are not in question.
To favor.
In the sense that I make sure that you don't win your match if there are 2 teams that are competing for perhaps a championship. Team A, they make sure that it doesn't win. And Team B, on the other side, the one that is chasing, also doesn't win. So that's why I'm saying that it's not easy perhaps to pick particular matches, certain games. So you cannot nullify whatever had happened last season or the previous season. But once again, it's legislation. The moment we have legislation, what FKF has done is just to start the conversation. and that is in their place to start the conversation. Once the conversation is on, the law should come in. And because we don't have legislation to support a prosecution, that's why we fail. Once again, I'll mention what happened in Kisumu. Somebody was arrested. There was evidence. The players came and confessed that this guy was trying to influence the match. But where is the law? The police officer, the OCS in that police station just asked, is there any law? How are we going to take him to court? Because this is a case that will collapse on arrival. So once again, every other thing in consideration, we must have a law. That will stipulate that if Fred Arocho is convicted, Fred Arocho will see jail for 8 years or a fine of 2 million. Basically, that's what I'm talking about. And our legislators must sit and discuss, because where else do we get the legislation? It is in our parliament.
But again, that should go hand in hand with FIFA statute, because if you are jailed or you are fined, then fine, you can pay your 8 million fine and then come back.
Wait, Chitela, it has nothing. Wait, sorry. It has nothing to do with FIFA. I think that's why we are missing.
Wait. You have not understood my point. My point is, if I'm found guilty, yeah, let's say in the rule of law, we give an example of Kenya. I'm found guilty of match fixing. There are laws in place to prosecute me. I've been given an option of a jail time of probably 2 years and a fine of 3 million. Then I opt to pay the fine. Then I'm out, I'm free. Then I go back to football. So it should go
You cannot go back.
Wait, it should go hand in hand, because at the moment we are saying that it is wrong that FKF has suspended. And at the same time we are saying we need laws. That's why I'm saying the legislation should not work alone.
In isolation.
It should not work in isolation. FIFA will not recognize that.
Okay, before she responds, there's a gentleman who was involved with Willis and some other player who was playing for Harambee Stars. Sure. I don't want to mention because perhaps of the legal issues. You know, the gentleman in Asia is currently serving a jail term. The mastermind is currently serving a 7-year jail term. But what happens in Kenya? Because we don't have something to support. Yeah. Because in Asia, where that guy was arrested, and in fact, they even supplied Kenya with information and evidence. We could not act on that evidence because we don't have legislation. So I understand what you're saying. But the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, and our viewers, we must have a law to prosecute this.
That's right. Just to give it context, a little bit off, but the same. You remember the case we had with Nick Mwendwa, and coming in and him stepping aside, and FIFA slapping a suspension. Now, look at what happened in France last week, right? The federation chief had to step down after he made disparaging remarks against Zinedine Zidane. And the executive committee met, and they were wondering why, as the FA chief handed Coach Deschamps 6-year contract running up to 2026, right? And he said if Zidane was even to call me, I won't pick his call. And the French sports minister led in making calls to him that he has to step down. We are going to do audits of that federation. And right now, the federation chief has stepped down. We haven't had FIFA
interfering. Yes.
The demands to the French government that this football interference.
Double speak.
Last week again, FIFA president Gianni Infantino faced the Swiss prosecutors. They're investigating a case. This is the FIFA president. And even where FIFA operates in Switzerland, they are guided. They operate within the armpits of the Swiss law. However, if you come to African countries, Kenya and the likes, FIFA is so quick at
pronouncing itself.
So that's something to ponder over even as we go into the next topic. But here's a point. These rules actually must be domesticated. They can't work in isolation. But at the same time, as Arocho says, it's a wake-up call for parliamentarians and probably Ababu Namwamba. It's high time
in the sports committee.
Lobbying, yes, so that we have this.
Has quite his.
I just want to touch on something about the clubs. Like if you see on the list that is there, Zoo FC had like almost 6 players. 6 players were from Zoo FC, and then the club was taken back to NSL. What are the actions that are supposed to be taken to the club? And then the next thing is, you've seen this club has been told there's a lot of match fixing in your club. And a club, top club like Tusker FC, go and signs player from
Zoo.
From Zoo. The City, is it City Star?
Yeah.
Go and sign player from Zoo. The player that he's in the list. All of them, they're going to play in the top league. Like, how do you make such decision knowing that this club has been taken down?
It's under investigation.
It's under investigation. And the other clubs that know this club is under investigation, you're going to sign the same players that are on the list to the top clubs.
Right.
I also want to throw something at FKF. The FKF. We have discussed on one side.
Right.
On this other side, Arocho had a very serious discussion last season where referees were not paid.
Right.
You see, if you don't give me a good working environment, I'll be vulnerable to such attempts. So even as FKF issues orders to punish the offenders, they should also create a good environment where football will thrive. Because if you don't pay a referee for 8 months, he's a father, he's a husband, a wife, a mother. What do you want that person to do? As you say,
it's true.
There are so many mouths.
Ni sawa na kulima watu wa production lunch. Haya, wacha tusingie mingi sana. Sasa tuendelee hapa kwenye match fixing. It's something that definitely, and let me tell you what, I have been in this panel for a while. If you have hopes that we will keep quiet about it,